And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world? Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many.
A self-proclaimed Messiah, a charismatic Australian whose devoted disciples believe he walked this earth 2,000 years ago.
My name's Alan John Miller, but I'm actually Jesus. I remember all of the events of my crucifixion. I understood what was going on. I understood the reason for my death.
And he's collecting disciples. Miller has convinced them that they were with him at his crucifixion.
Just went to get the spike and smash it into his hands, and just so much love that came from him, so I couldn't do it.
It was excruciating to watch basically the annihilation of the person that I love the most.
I'm starting to have a soul, like an emotional realisation of who he is.
There have been men, many of them, who claim to be a new Messiah. And tonight we're going to meet three of them,
In the woods of rural Siberia, he is known as Vissarion, the teacher, and around 5,000 disciples live around him, growing their own food and feasting on his every word. Meanwhile, in London, David Shaler says he is the true Lord of Lords, but unlike Vissarion, no one believes him.
That doesn't bother me because I was chosen by God. We're in the Church of Holy Sepulchre, and this behind me is supposed to be the tomb of Christ. Well, I'm Christ, I'm not in the tomb, I'm not dead yet.
Prove to me that you are a son of God!
Pastor Apollo Quibeloi, the most successful of the world's self-labeled saviors.
The official coming of the Son of God was in April 13, 2005.
He was an obscure evangelist from the rural Philippines until 2005, when he announced that God had appointed him Christ on earth, his reward for a pure life.
This man's name is Yanuka Rav Shlomo Yahuda. So apparently the title Yanuka is given to someone who has an astonishing amount of knowledge and is proficient in the Torah and the Talmud. So we're going to get into that. It's almost miraculous and non-human how much this man knows. So he actually has thousands of people, and I have video, thousands of people literally swarm around him when he goes anywhere. And that includes prominent rabbis in Israel. And he's young. He's maybe in his mid-30s. Yeah, they kiss his hands. They hang on every word. He's accredited to performing miracles. And I want to say even the people who claimed that they had received a miracle at his hand, none of them have given any credit to God. They give the credit to this guy.
And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet.
Today, the members of the Science and Security Board moved the hands of the doomsday clock forward. We moved the clock forward the closest it has ever been to midnight. It is now 90 seconds to midnight.
But just days ago, another clock turned, the so-called doomsday clock. That symbolic clock was created 76 years ago by atomic scientists, including Albert Einstein. Year after year, experts have measured humanity's proximity to midnight. In other words, to self-destruction. In 2023, they surveyed the state of the world with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the runaway climate catastrophe, rising nuclear threats that are undermining global norms and institutions. And they came to a clear conclusion. The doomsday clock is now 90 seconds to midnight, which means 19 seconds to total global catastrophe. Now, this is the closest the clock has ever stood to humanity's darkest hour, and closer than even during the height of the Cold War.
Putin has repeatedly raised the specter of nuclear use. In launching the invasion, he warned that whoever tries to hinder us should know that Russia's response will be immediate and will lead to consequences you have never faced in your history. A few days later, he ordered Russia's nuclear forces to special combat duty. In announcing the annexation of Ukrainian territories in September, Putin declared that he would defend them with all weapon systems available to us. This is not a bluff. And in case anyone missed the reference to nuclear weapons, he mentioned that Hiroshima and Nagasaki had set a precedent.
Through weakness and incompetence, Joe Biden has brought us to the brink of World War III. We're at the brink of World War III, just in case anybody doesn't know it.
Israel are seemingly raising their joint preparedness for an all-out regional war. The U.S. Central Command and Israel Defense Forces began a number of joint military exercises, which are unprecedented in scale, dubbed Juniper Oak. While the U.S. and Israeli air forces, navies, and ground forces will conduct coordinated strikes against targets representing maritime threats, it is important to re-emphasize that these exercises are the largest which the US and Israel have held to date, and evidently send a clear message that the war in Ukraine has not caused the United States to ignore the imminent threats emanating from the Islamic Republic of Iran.
August 9th, 1945. The Nagasaki nuclear explosion. August 6th, 1945. The Hiroshima nuclear explosion. Since these World War II attacks, nuclear weapons have become even more powerful. The Hiroshima bomb produced an explosion of 15 kilotons. 1 kiloton equals the explosive power of 1,000 tons of TNT. If it was detonated in New York City's Times Square, this is what it would look like. The radius of the affected area would be almost a mile long. This yellow circle indicates the radius of the explosion's fireball. Within the red circle, fatalities are near 100%, and all concrete structures are damaged or demolished. Within the gray circle, most residential structures are destroyed, and there are massive injuries and fatalities. The orange circle indicates the area in which third-degree radiation burns occur. But the sheer destructive power of that explosion pales in comparison to the largest thermonuclear weapon currently in the United States arsenal, the B-83. Created in the late 1970s, the B-83 can produce an explosion of up to 1,200 kilotons, which is 80 times the Hiroshima explosion. That's the explosive power of 1.2 million tons of TNT. If dropped on New York City, the radius of the affected area would be over 7 miles. Then, there's the 1954 Operation Castle Bravo, the largest nuclear bomb ever tested by the United States. It produced a 15,000 kiloton explosion, which is over 1,000 times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb. If detonated in New York City, the radius of the affected area would be over 21 miles. But there's even one more powerful than that. On October 30th, 1961, the Soviet Union tested the Tsar Bomba. It is the most powerful weapon ever detonated. It produced a 50,000 kiloton explosion. That's 3,300 times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb. The mushroom cloud was so tall that it dwarfed anything on Earth. If dropped on New York City, the radius of the affected area would be over 31 miles. The Tsar Bomba was created over 5 decades ago. Today, there are an estimated 14,900 nuclear weapons in the world. If not for
For nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom.
Anecdotal evidence and some police figures suggest there's been a huge rise in cases of racist abuse in the wake of the UK's referendum vote to leave the EU. After a campaign in which immigration featured heavily, last week the UN urged Britain to take action to prevent further abuse and to prosecute perpetrators.
This should not be interpreted by some individuals that they have license to take leave of their senses and embrace a mob-like behavior.
Allez-vous vous saisir de la question de la répartition des migrants avec les autres pays européens, comme Malte qui ne répond plus aux demandes de coordination de sauvetage? Les personnes secourues se trouvent dans une situation d'urgence absolue. Les prévisions météo indiquent une détérioration significative du climat. Pas du tout. Ces violences.
Quel est le député qui vient de prononcer cette phrase? Pardon?
Git ülkeni kurtar. Ya git ülkeni kurtar. Sıkıyorsa.
Bizim ülkemiz.
Konuşma falan.
Ezbere konuş.
Dedelerin.
İngilizle, Fransızla beraber oldu. Bizi arkamızdan vurdu ve halen arkamızdan vuruyorlar. Buradan nargile içerken benim Mehmetçiğim, benim gariban insanım. Senin gidiyor orada topraklarını koruyor.
Bir saniye.
Suriye'ye gidecek. Niye? Suriyeliler burada rahatça geçsin, sapıklık yapsın diye mi?
Bakalım. Suriyeliler demeyeceksiniz.
Ben isim vermiyorum.
Suriyeliler atıyorlar ya. Her şey Suriyeli. Her şey Suriyeli.
This is Pulaski, Tennessee, and the Ku Klux Klan began back in 1865 on Christmas Eve, when 6 ex-Confederate soldiers met to form a social club. Its name was inspired by the Greek word for circle. Nathan Bedford Forrest was the Klan's first imperial wizard, and the hoods and robes were used to frighten black people in their homes. But then black people start voting, and the Klan and groups like it turn brutal. But the Klan went quiet just years later.
By 1872, all of their goals had been pretty much accomplished, so it wasn't really a need to don a sheet anymore, because you had your person, your guy at the State House who could make laws that would suit your purposes.
지금 우리 무장력은 그 어떤 위기에도 대응할 철저한 준비가 되어 있으며 우리 국가의 핵전쟁 억제력 또한 절대적인 자기 힘을 자기 사명에 충실히 정확히 신속히 동원할 만전태세에 있습니다. 우리 무력의 일상적인 조선민주주의인민공화국은 미국과의 그 어떤 군사적 충돌에도 대처할 철저한 준비가 되어 있다는 것을 다시금 확언합니다. 맞설 수 있다고 생각한다면 천만에 그러한 위험한 시도는 즉시 강력한 힘에 의해 응징될 것이며 윤석열 정권과 그의 군대는 전면될 것입니다.
North Korea's military said today its recent barrage of missile tests were practice to, quote, mercilessly strike key South Korean and U.S. targets. North Korea fired dozens of missiles and flew warplanes toward the sea last week, setting off evacuation alerts in some areas of South Korea and Japan. U.S. and South Korean officials responded by saying they would enhance their joint training drills and warned the North that the use of nuclear weapons would result in the end of Kim Jong-un's regime.
And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places.
November food prices showed a 10.6% increase over last year. And because of things like drought, supply chain shortages, overall inflation next year, you could see these prices pop even more. It's getting expensive to go grocery shopping. Good time to bring in Stephanie Nash. She's a dairy farmer in Tennessee. Do you see food prices going down anytime soon?
No, we're not going to see any change in the U.S. market for food prices for Americans. You know, we imported 57% more from Brazil for beef, 12% more in Mexico. I'm telling the government and our politicians and our leaders, what are you doing? What are you doing with American grown? How are you supporting our family farmers and ranchers? And how are you supporting Americans at the grocery store? They're paying anywhere from 10 to 18% more for products.
You talk about shortages, a real possibility next year. How bad could it be?
You look at Ukraine, you look at Russia, you look at what's going on in the Netherlands. I think there's going to be a lot of food shortages next year. You know.
Just a quick update. It's Saturday, I believe, and here's the truck I've been driving for the last few days for Wilson Logistics. This trailer just was assigned to us from Kraft over at the Kraft Foods plant, and we're delivering it here to what's called the Springfield Underground. And that is, as you can see behind me, this giant cave that's big enough to house hundreds of these trucks and trailers. There's a train track running through here. Just to give you an idea, back here, there's a regular sized truck. See how tall that is up there? It's just incredible. Anyway, having a great time, learning lots.
I'm sure there's some of you out there that knew about this place, but for the majority of us, I don't think we knew about this place. So I watched a video of a high-ranking guy taking this news agency around in this underground facility. And what he said is this place is so big, they have upwards of 500 employees. And he said that they have 500 to 600 trailer trucks come through there daily. I mean, look, is this not crazy? I mean, I've never seen anything like it, and it's gargantuous. He also said in this facility that it's primarily food. Like you saw in that video with that truck driver, Kraft Food is contracting out this other truck business to take food down there. And this is not ran all by one company. All of this space down there is leased. It's leased to whoever buys it, probably to the highest bidder in some cases. Now it gets really interesting here in a minute, but he also says that they're expanding another 1 million square feet. They've already got 3.5 miles of road system down there. Some of you might be asking, well, where in the heck is this? It's called Springfield Underground, and I believe it's located in Missouri. And the guy also said that they have another location on the west side that they're developing that I don't think too many people know about, even the people that know about this one. So not only do they got 500 to 600 trailer trucks coming through here a day, they've also got BNSF coming through with trains. They've got railroad tracks coming through the underground. I mean, look, they've got huge railroad track systems that come through here and deliver huge boxcars of probably food. The main guy also mentioned that they have a huge area down there that has a huge stockpile of PPE, personal protective equipment, in case of a catastrophe and emergency. Now, I know a lot of you people are shocked about this. Like, I had no idea that this place existed. And the crazy thing is it's so deep down into the ground. Look how deep it is. I mean, that is considered underground. So with that, there's a lot of people out there that are suspicious about everything that goes on down there because it's a restricted area, gates and everything. One person mentioned that there's a lot of cover-up companies that are ran by the GOV that lease a ton of space and are stockpiling tons of food down there. Stockpiling food during food shortages or expected food shortages, maybe even causing or justifying some of the food shortages. Now, I don't know if these suspicions are accurate, but having 3.5 miles of storage down there does seem a little suspicious. And given the feeling that that truck driver had going down there, with a big company like Kraft contracting out private trucks to bring tons of food down there, now it might be completely normal, but like I said, there's tons of suspicion on who exactly is leasing a lot of this space. And the president did say that they had a long conversation about increasing and disseminating more rapidly food shortages. Very ironic that that would be caused, right? And that's the buzz right now. Tucker did a thing last night. Check out what he had to say.
Last spring in March at a press conference in Brussels, Joe Biden explained that the sanctions he was imposing against Russia, while morally necessary, were also going to cause food shortages around the world, including here in the United States. It's going to be real, he said. Now, Biden said this in a very odd way. There was no hint or panic, emotions you'd expect from a leader predicting the deaths of human beings from starvation. None of that. Instead, there was pure nonchalant casualness. Biden could have been describing the weather or a trip to the dry cleaners. It's going to be real. When he met with the group, Biden said, they spoke about, quote, how we could increase and disseminate more rapidly food shortages. That's what Joe Biden said, verbatim. It's on tape.
And we both talked about how we could increase and disseminate more rapidly food shortages.
So here you have the President of the United States pledging to increase food shortages at a press conference. Now, that seemed like a newsworthy event, but not a single news organization in this country seemed to notice it happened, nor did the White House correct it. But others were watching, so within days, that clip wound up on social media, and Facebook flagged it immediately as, quote, false news. Now, strictly speaking, that's untrue. There's nothing false about the video. It was entirely real. No one can test that. But apparently, Facebook users were supposed to understand that Joe Biden is senile, and therefore he's not accountable for his own words. Taking Joe Biden literally qualifies as, quote, misinformation. Now, we'll leave that whole episode for you to assess. We can't know what Joe Biden was thinking, if anything, when he uttered those words in Brussels. We can only tell you what happened afterward. Strange disasters began to beset food processors all over the United States. In April, the next month, the headquarters of one of this country's largest organic food distributors was destroyed in a fire, cause unknown. The next month, in a single week actually, 2 separate private plane crashes took out 2 separate food processing centers. One plane hit a General Mills plant in Georgia, the other plane hit a food plant in Idaho. By the way, back in February, a boiler explosion obliterated a potato processing plant in Oregon, and so on. So even people who aren't given to connecting the dots, who don't think of themselves as conspiracy nuts, began to wonder, is there something here?
So too, the Zika virus and its life-shattering consequences. The children need constant care, constant stimulation, physical and mental. But the mothers who bear this burden are among Brazil's poorest.
There are damp patches on the mattress. There could be vomit or blood, urine or diarrhea. Whatever it is, this whole room is infected with Ebola.
Fears over SARS, an H5N1 or avian flu outbreak has meant stringent rules on health and sanitation are closely enforced. The human toll of SARS, however, continues among its survivors.
The World Health Organization recently declared monkeypox a global public health emergency, with cases being reported in many different countries, including here in the United States.
Hi, I'm Dr. Joe Brzee with CDC's Influenza Division. I'm here to speak with you today about the symptoms of swine flu infections and what to do if you get sick. Since March 2009, persons with infection caused by a new strain of swine flu virus have been identified in the U.S. and other countries.
Taking a closer look at the new COVID-19 subvariant that's taking over cases in the country. This comes less than 3 months before the national public health emergency is set to expire.
Public health experts tell us this is an important variant that we all need to be aware of.
And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world? And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. For of this sort are they which creep into houses, and lead captive silly women laden with sins, led away with divers lusts, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. And what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch.